Being a dad is hard. It's high stakes. It takes a toll on our self-worth, mental health, and can be lonely. But why would we ever want to do something so important in isolation? Legacy Makers, a conversation for dads, is quite simply two normal dads having conversations about, you guessed it, being a dad. The highs, the lows, and the learnings along the way. We are four dads. We want to remedy the deficiency we see in community for dads, and we want to ruthlessly encourage dads on their journey to build lasting legacy for the faces they love the most.
All right, Eric, we're going to talk about baggage. You ready for this?
I am pumped to talk about this.
We are leaving for the beach tomorrow. If Laura listens to this, I'm going to be in big trouble, but we're leaving for the beach tomorrow. We bought a minivan, which is embarrassing
Just for this trip?
We bought it to be able to haul our three kids around. So you guys have a minivan?
We did.
You did. Now you're out of the phase.
We're out of the minivan phase, yeah.
So we have a minivan to have three kids, but we're not going to take it to the beach because we are taking so much crap that we cannot fit it. So we are taking my truck. The back is going to be filled to the brim. And it's easy for me to put this on Laura or our youngest, Andrew. But I realize, like, my last work trip, I took 3 different shirts because I thought I may wear one of the... I needed one, but I took 3 because I wanted to decide when I'm up there. First of all, let me just ask you, do you guys have that? Like, do you guys have a problem with overpacking?
We have 6 people in our family. One of them has a substantial problem with overpacking. Like, I can't even... It drives me insane. I pack for the whole family because it takes her so long to pack. She packs as if there's a zombie apocalypse and we're going to be somewhere for maybe ever. That's how she packs. Every time we go on a trip that we're flying, I tell her, I'm like, doesn't matter my status on Delta.
If it gets over a certain weight.
So if it gets over, because of my status, it's a humble brag, but because of my status, they will not charge me for the normal, like when it goes over 50 pounds. But we get to an echelon where they make us take a bunch of stuff out and repack it because it's not even, yes. So yes, we have a problem. She has a problem.
Okay, well, I'm going to save you. We're going to get out of this one for a minute. When you overpack, when someone in your family overpacks, it costs you money.
Yes.
It costs you time. Like the
repacking.
The drama at the
airport.
Checkout. Yeah, the check-in, wherever the thing is. It costs you energy.
Frustration.
All those things. Here's what I wondered. Let's get real deep real fast. How many times are we carrying so much baggage from our past that affects us from our time, our energy, our frustration, and that is affecting our ability to be the dads and the husbands that we want to be? And I think you and I went separately and thought about a bunch of different ideas, and we came back, and I think 3 of them we share. We share a lot of these things. And I would just say this to anybody listening right now. I'd ask you right now to audit, to think about what is the baggage that from your experience with your parents, from certain expectations, what are you carrying that affects how you parent? And the very first one for me is this desire. I'm going to say it's affirmation, but here's what it really means. I care what people think. So when I was growing up, my parents are amazing, but a lot of the praise for me came from when I accomplished or did certain things. When I did well in school, when I did well in sports, when I achieved something, a lot of words of affirmation for what I did. Sometimes I'm better at being a human doing than a human being because I get that satisfaction. Okay, I realize that there are times that my parenting is affected by my desire to please people. Like last night, we're at the Mexican restaurant. I'm yelling at my kids. What they were doing was wrong, but because I'm embarrassed because what other people around me are thinking. So let's talk about that. Affirmation. How does that play out in your world?
Yeah, so as you said, we went and kind of did a little audit. And it was, I think I texted you. No, we were riding in an Uber on the way, somewhere this weekend. And I was like exhausted because on the plane we had no internet, which, first world problems. And so I used that hour and a half to think about this baggage, in preparation for this. And
let's be real honest here.
Yeah.
I texted you. I said, here's one of my ideas for this podcast. Yeah. We should talk about baggage. Couple thoughts. you went and spent the plane ride thinking about it, and we got in the Uber. You're like, man, I need a drink.
Yes.
Like,
I needed a nap and a drink. And we had an hour ride to the to our hotel from the airport. And I was like, well, I just wish we had actually somebody recording then, because we had this whole therapeutic conversation. But we both had a bunch of baggage. We're going to talk about a couple of things that were common amongst us. So yes, this was one that was common for both of us. For me, yes, praise for all the things you did, achievement based. But how it kind of manifested is like this guilt if I wasn't winning or achieving, right? And so for me, I have this that's I can feel myself tense up if I'm feeling guilty or someone is disappointed in me, right? Mm-hmm. And so I can also then translates to how I sometimes will, discipline my children, and I can feel it of my weapon of choice is guilt. It's interesting, that's what was used against me in my mind, and now I'm doing that, and I have to be so careful about that because I do not want them to feel that. And same thing, amazing parents. I don't think they set out to say, oh, I'm going to make him feel guilty. And I've probably made a bunch of it up in my mind, but to me, that is something that has come with this affirmation piece. It's affirmation, but it's more of the guilt of if I didn't do something.
So I have a coach that I worked with who says there are 4 core emotions: mad, sad, glad, angry. Or angry is the same as mad. Mad, sad, glad, fear. Scared is one. But he says there's a 5th one, which is shame. Mm. And the shame piece of the guilt, and it's a lot of feeling and I can see me also using that as a weapon with my kids, specifically our oldest, which is George. I tell him you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
You should be embarrassed that you did you're this old, you're the oldest, you're supposed to be a leader, you should do this. And so I'm using it because it's a motivator for me. But when I turn around and use it at him, it's not because this is the right thing to do. I feel like I'm creating a scenario where he feels like he's not enough because he didn't perform to a certain level.
Yeah. I think for me, as I think about this one, right, a couple of things I want to hit on. In that topic or in that example, I think if you go then do the incremental sentence or two, right? Hey, you are the oldest, you know better. But you know what, buddy? In your situation, you're not the oldest, right? You have older sisters, right?
I'm the oldest.
Or you're the oldest. So we're in the same situation. What I'll say to Camden now that has been helpful, because I had the same kind of thing with Cam. Hey, buddy, I've been the oldest. I know it. I've got 2 little brothers, Uncle Jay and Uncle Rhino, and it's hard. It's hard to be the oldest. But you should, I think if you clarify or caveat that, then all of a sudden it becomes, okay, Dad is upset with me, but Dad also knows how hard it is to be the oldest. Just try to resonate with them a little bit. The thing that concerns me most on this first one, so when you think about if you are affirmation based and you feel like that's how you've been raised or that's what you're going to be achieved, there's 2 things. Number one, I get concerned about going with the crowd, right? Peer pressure. And that's what we're trying to really think about with our kids. And I had the same thing. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be known. And you have this tension of okay, that's going to pull at you. And that's a really, really big thing that I'm thinking about with Cam and Bennett and Anderson and Evelyn of I don't want them to grow up feeling like I have to do these things to be liked, or being liked is more important than anything else, right?
Yeah. And so if the focus is on caring so much what other people think, then it can drive outcomes that long-term are really
not
bad.
Correct. Yeah. The other thing I'll say is a dad, right? So flip that from concern that if my kids are affirmation-based, it could be, what we just talked about. Well, as a dad, if I don't leave that baggage out or understand that I have it and try to pivot, I'm going to be more focused on what the world thinks of me than what my house thinks of me.
Yeah.
Because my house in my mind is, okay, my wife's got to love me, my kids have to love me. I don't need to put in as much effort there, but I need the world, right, to be I need to be affirmed there, and that is a massive challenge and a massive red flag that we all have to resist.
Yeah, if we go back to the baggage we're carrying in and thinking about my parents gave me affirmation when I did things. Mm-hmm. And we need to be cautious. If that's the baggage I'm carrying in, I am going to affirm my kids based on what they do. but I really need to affirm them based on who they are and then call them to what they need to do. And we had a mutual friend, David Salyers, and he says that he noticed with his kids that early on he used this shame side of things, like, hey, like, why are you so bad? Why did you do something so wrong? Why did you do that? And he started to flip it. Not this just like only praise parenting, but he would come in and affirm who they are and then talk about how what they did was not consistent with who he knew them to be. So instead of saying, hey, why'd you do this? He would say, hey, I know that you are good. I know that you're respectful. I know that you're a leader. So this behavior you showed was not consistent with that. I think for me, acknowledging my desire for affirmation and trying to counter that baggage so that my kids don't grow up seeking only affirmation from the wrong places, specifically from the world. Their affirmation needs to come from who they are, not what they do.
I love it. And we could talk about this for a long time because you and I both have a problem here, but we're gonna move on to the second one. All right, second one that you and I shared was this kind of high standards and expectations, right? So how this shows up for me, I have very, very high standards of myself. I have high standards in the workplace, the outcome, again, back to the achievement probably, right? They all kind of tie together. As I've thought about this as a dad, the thing that concerns me when there is this almost obsession with high standards and perfection, right, is I am too focused on the outcome versus getting there, right? Eyes are too far. And when you're talking about being a dad, okay, the outcome, I guess, in a sense is, okay, are they kind adults, caring adults, love, at 18 years old? Well, you're missing the journey there because you're so focused on what they need to be and how are we going to get them to this spot. And I think we live as parents in this messy middle. And if you're so focused on achievement and outcomes, like you can't thrive on the day to day because you're so focused on, what's to come. And that to me is a big thing that I'm trying to work through.
Yeah, you don't enjoy life. I mean,
right,
that's
yeah.
if
you're not careful,
I could give you 100 of these examples. I'll give you one. When I wrote my first book, I mean, it took so many hours and all. There's a humble brag for you too there. As we did this, I put all this effort in, and then I remember the feeling. We had a launch party, and I remember leaving the launch party and feeling empty because I had put so much effort into this destination. And then once it arrived, it was like, this is not going to ultimately just be fulfilling. And I didn't enjoy the steps along the way. So baggage and how does that show up with our kids? If we focus so much on achievement and high standards and excellence, I do think we have a potential to rob our kids of enjoying. We may not enjoy the messy middle. They're certainly not going to enjoy it if we're only focused on those other pieces. I'm even realizing like the tournament in baseball, the recital and dance, all of these things, but how do they enjoy all the pieces leading up to it? Yeah,
I think it puts absolute unnecessary pressure on the whole family unit, right? On your spouse, on the kids certainly, right? Like Cam, and he is so, firstborn, like he's ready to, achieve. Again, he's very similar to me in a lot of ways. And I have had to talk to him and really hammer home, like tournaments, the games are just the games. Like the expectation is for you to be an awesome teammate, be a leader, and try your best. If you strike out, that like I'm not concerned with outcome. Like we have had to reinforce over and over at school, at sports, all the things, like what we hammer into and it wasn't always like this, but the last couple years we saw the stress get to him with sports and school because he's got some, as all kids do, some stuff he didn't like. Hopefully they will get it. I don't think they get it yet, but I do not care about the grade. I do not care. It's the effort.
Here's my question. I hope that I'm like you because I say what you say. Like I told George at T-Ball a couple weeks ago, like I don't care about the outcome. I just care if you try hard. But guess what? I care about the outcome.
Well, you do.
Because I sat there and I watched him, like, he's hit well all year, and then we're in the playoffs, and he's having to go to the tee. And I'm like, because I realize this is a piece of baggage that I carry in.
Yeah. Your mind is like, there's a press release saying, Kevin Scott's son has disrespected the Scott name.
So, and that's why this, I think, matters for parents is we've got to understand the baggage we're bringing in with it. It can't There is a reason we feel that way.
Yes.
And by the way, these are the ones for you and I. It may be different for other people.
Absolutely.
What they're bringing in. Okay, so you and I, some of our baggage is this affirmation,
Yep.
caring what people think, high standards and expectations. The third one is imposter syndrome, which I tell you the best way to feel imposter syndrome as a parent is to start a podcast about being a dad.
Totally.
Because now every time somebody sees you and you're like, oh, they're the guy that has the dad podcast. You see their kids? They're freaking crazy.
Yeah.
They have no control in their house. In a lot of areas of work, I don't feel imposter syndrome. But I think as a dad, it's one of the areas I feel it the strongest because I'm not completely confident that I know exactly what it takes to do it the right way.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think, too, for me, I had this a lot at work early in my career. And what helped me get through it was this. I finally got to a spot where you just understand, like, if you know everything in a work setting, you're probably in the wrong role. Like, you should be in roles that are stretching you, where you don't have all the answers, because the whole point is to grow. And so, but this was, again, one of our common ones was imposter syndrome, because, what it does to you. So you said what it is, but what it does is, it is this constant insecurity and angst and stress that sits on top of you. And you have to remind yourself, no one is thinking about you. Right? That's what it comes down to. Nobody is thinking about you. You think everybody is judging how you say things and your email and the presentation. And then on the dad side, if this, and I struggle with it too, like, I don't have all the answers. I looked at my parents as they were superheroes and they knew everything. And then I become a parent and I'm like completely lost. And then we're starting a podcast about being dads. Like, that doesn't mean we're experts in being dads. Like, we're just trying to figure it out and want to do that in community. But you have to get rid of the imposter syndrome because you're not supposed to know everything. That's the thing as a dad. Like, the whole point is the journey to learn and get better and to pivot. I talk a lot at work about how powerful is our pivot going to be. Like, as a dad, like, how powerful is your pivot going to be when you go down a path for a week or 2 weeks or 2 months where you're not present, you're not doing the thing? That's going to happen. You should not feel guilt about that. You should pivot, but pivot quickly and pivot powerfully. And to me, that is the thing. Like, do not let imposter syndrome stop you from performing. And that's what it will do if you're not careful.
Okay, I think we need to talk about how to repack. So I was in an airport one time, and they have this whole area where, for the drama that you face when you're over the weight limit again because somebody in your family has overpacked,
Brittany.
and they call it the repack zone. So it's the area where you
I've
go.
been there. Wow.
You open your bags in front of everybody, which, by the way, is embarrassing. Or your
Can
word
I give
would
you
be
a visual?
vulnerable.
Did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Okay, there's a scene where I forget who, they're like ringing a bell and saying shame, like over and over, and she's walking through the town. The repack zone is very shameful.
Okay, it is shameful, but that is the place that you are supposed to go and figure out, what do I actually need for this trip? And what pieces of the junk that I've packed do I need to leave here? Like, some of this is just going to have to stay. I'm going to have to walk it back to the car. It's going in the trash can. I'm not taking it with me on this trip, which sometimes is lots of tears and drama. But It's an important piece. I think for you and I, and we say this for dads, but it's for moms listening, it's, what do you need to repack? What do you need to leave in the past? And I think let's look through this with a few different lenses. Let's first talk about our relationships with our spouses, because I'm thinking about the things that I'm bringing in to our marriage from things I saw and did that I need to at least acknowledge that that's baggage I'm bringing in, and I've got to do my best to leave it in the past.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think part of the repacking is acknowledging that there's the issue. So I'll give you an example. As I mentioned, guilt was something for me that, when I feel guilty, I am not a good person. Like, I don't show up the way I want to, right? I'm tense, I'm defensive, I quick to anger, all those things. It took me a really long time to be able to understand that about myself. I could feel it, but I didn't really understand why. It's not a fun process to go through. But Brittany is aware of that, right? She's aware of, hey, he's going to be irrational if he feels guilt. I can now communicate in a way, hey, I don't know if you meant this, but I feel guilty, and so this is not going to be productive. So
So you're acknowledging
Correct.
why you.
So part of that is
okay.
the repacking process. It's
Yeah.
like, but you have to be on the same page with your spouse. I need to know more about her than anybody. Like, what are her tics? What things that make her, show up in a way that she's not her best. It's not productive, right? And so,
And that starts with being open,
Yeah.
which I realize I'm really good at being open with Laura in areas where I want to be open.
yes,
But some of the baggage, like I want to leave over here packed. I don't want anybody to see it, even Laura. And I think we've got to be as open. We need to be as open with our spouse as anybody.
well, have you ever, back on this analogy, have you ever unpacked a suitcase that is meant to be 50 pounds, but has 73 pounds of stuff in it in front of a whole airport of people, and you're trying to pull out stuff and repack stuff, and your wife's upset because they're taking like some sea salt spray that was really expensive or whatever the heck we had to do. Well, doing those processes, as a husband and a wife, it is not fun. Like, I've been married 15 years. Like, so when people hear, oh, like what an emotionally connected guy, that he's communicating in a way that says, oh, I'm feeling guilty, honey. That is not like, this has taken a long time to get to this spot, and it should have been quicker if I would have hit this head on and didn't pack 73 pounds worth of stuff in a 50-pound bag.
For the record, Laura would say that I'm the one that overpacks between the two of us. She overpacks for the kids, but
You're the
I'm a little
problem.
bit more high maintenance. Let's talk about kids for a second.
Yep.
We bring baggage into those relationships, but we've talked about this in other podcasts. I think we need to talk about it here for a second. We need to be able to open up for our kids and be honest with them about that.
Yeah.
We are not superheroes. We don't have it all together. And even one of the things I'm trying to get better at is when I use my baggage, when I use things like affirmation or shame against George or Amelia when I'm disciplining them, how do I, when I catch myself doing it, go back to them later and say, hey, I'm sorry, like you were still wrong. You still did what was wrong, but what I said was not right. And this is something, I care a lot what other people think. So the reason that I yelled at you last night at the Mexican restaurant, you were still doing what was wrong, but I cared too much about what the people at the booth behind us thought.
Yeah. You just hit on something that I think is absolutely magic as a parent that I don't think many of us saw growing up with our parents. And it doesn't mean that they did anything wrong. It just wasn't the normal thing. But being able to do exactly what you just said and have a conversation after the fact of, hey, yes, this was wrong. But you know what, buddy? Like, I'm not perfect. I completely overreacted. And having that conversation, I remember the first time, like I can remember it with Bennett, a situation like that where I was like, hey, buddy, like, and he still thought he was in trouble. And I came in and I could see him like tense up, like, okay, I'm still in trouble. And like, you could feel this disarmament. And that was it. I didn't say anything. I was like, hey, buddy, I messed up. Like, I'm really disappointed in how I showed up. And I'm just sorry. I love you. I'm sorry I shouldn't have done that. We need to both be better. And I could just feel it in him. You know what I mean? And even the girls are 4. I've had similar, but similar, speak to them a little differently, but there's just a completely different vibe when your kids see you as, yes, they're my dad. He's not perfect. And that's how they should see us.
Yeah. Okay. Way back in episode 2, we talked about community.
Yeah.
So when we think about baggage, we got to be open and honest, acknowledge it with our spouse, with our kids. But this is tough for guys. We've got to do this with other people too.
Yeah.
So it can't just be just our spouse and just our kids. There's got to be others in the mix here.
And it's weird. It's awkward. We talked about it. We've hit it. It's not fun, but there's something there that's really helpful. I had mentioned we had our finale of Legacy Makers for the first season at church last night, and we opened up mics for anybody that wanted to share like the impact that it had made on them. And again, this is a monthly gathering that we just weren't sure who was going to show up, and anywhere from 120 to 200 guys show up every month, and they sit at a consistent table. And there were guys that walked up in front of a whole group and were talking about how important it has been. They walked in here complete strangers, and they have a group of guys that know more about them than a lot of people. And just hearing this from guys that came in strangers that are now able to share and like what it has meant to them. And one guy was saying like the group that they've created, they're going to continue to meet over the summers every week in the mornings, and they're doing like some big fitness thing together as a group. But there is real power in community. And again, it is not like oversharing everything in your life, but you got to have people that you can talk to when you need to talk to that aren't your wife. You just have to.
You have to. And I think there's a tendency to feel like that's soft, or this is like this generation of soft. I sat last Monday, I spoke to a group of veterans, most of whom were like approaching 80 Vietnam veterans. And many of them, one of the guys had been married for 56 years. And he said he comes to this meeting every week because he needed a space to talk to other people who had experienced what he had experienced. And so I think regardless of whether we view this as soft or not, I love this. Here's a line that you said. You said, when it comes to others, you need to talk to your bros or a pro. So you're saying, ideally, you just go talk to your friends. But if you can't do that, like you need to go get a counselor or whatever you need to do. You need to be talking to somebody about your baggage beyond just your wife and kids.
I think 100%.
So I think here's the challenge. We got to acknowledge what the baggage is. We got to be willing to open it up and decide what we're going to keep, what we need to leave behind, and be able to have that honest conversation with the people that care about us most.
Yeah, and I would challenge anybody that's listening to this. Take the time. I was on an hour flight and I wrote some stuff out. You just have to be honest with yourself and go through this process. Do an audit. What is showing up? How are you showing up as a parent that you're not happy about? And reverse engineer it, because I promise you there is something that has happened, or there's something you're dealing with, or there's some experience. You're not going to fix it necessarily, but you just have to have the awareness, right? So take the time to lean in, know yourself better, and then it's going to really unlock, I think, for the future. So good conversation. We might need another beer or something, but yeah.
I like it.
Thanks for listening to Legacy Makers with Kevin Scott and Eric Blumenthal. Make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.